Have you ever acknowledged to yourself that you know exactly why you are doing something, but you don't know why you cannot stop yourself from doing it anyway? I know I have done that so many times before, and I spent years, absolutely years, reading books, going on courses, attending massive seminars, attending smaller seminars. And with every single event, I set the intention and I absolutely promised myself that this time I would focus, I would take notes, and I would do everything the expert I was paying good money to see advised me to do, because, well, they were the expert who had cracked the elusive code of success, and I was still a loser and failing. Every time I attended an event that cost me a lot of money, time, and energy, I would promise myself this time I will do much better. I put my faith in it, and I would try harder, and I would take action, and I knew that whatever it was that they knew would make the difference in fixing me. And I was convinced if I could just read enough of the right books that were predominantly written by, respectfully, old white rich men, or if I paid enough money to, sit closer to the stage of these incredible self-development gurus who are really good at what they do, but they were better than me. Or maybe if I just spent, more hours in therapy, or if I listened to more podcasts, if I learned even more about psychology, if I did all these things to improve myself, and maybe if I just stopped being myself, perhaps, that eventually all of these things would culminate in something, and that something inside me, that missing element, would just click at long last. And I truly believed it, because I wanted it so badly. I wanted to be this elevated version of myself, and I wanted to be different. I just wanted to be different, but it never happened. It absolutely didn't happen. Nothing lasted. The courses were good enough, the people were good enough, the intention was good enough, but it never happened. Nothing I changed lasted long enough to change me. And that was the issue. You see, in my head, I understood myself. I completely understood what my issues were. I knew what my problems were. I knew what my triggers were. I had enough self-awareness to understand myself, as so many people do, because, you get the notebooks and the worksheets that tell you if you tick this box or identify this, you can figure out what's wrong with you. And I knew all of these pieces of paper and books had the secret of helping me to unleash the power within me and expose my millionaire mind. I absolutely 100% could write a paper and get an A on how to get my act together. But somehow I still couldn't do it. I was still an excessive overthinker. God almighty, I had the most chronic anxiety. And I struggled to switch off and to stop questioning myself. I had so many bad habits. I would drink wine straight from the bottle and nothing to be proud of. And I smoked cigarettes whilst drinking black coffee at the sink first thing in the morning, stuffing my face with chocolate chip cookies, which were my favourite. And I was behaving and reacting to my life in ways that I really didn't like, and I hated so much, but I couldn't explain, I couldn't stop. It was this compulsive bad behaviour. And I was forever, ever trying to avoid the bullets of shame that I felt, because I just thought I wasn't good enough. And then Something magical happens when you get sick and tired of repeating your own internal story. Something inside you gives. And that's exactly what happened to me when I nearly died from COVID in 2021. And I realized that life has an expiration date. 2021 was without a doubt one of the worst years of my life, and it left me asking some really tough questions of myself, such as, why isn't everything that I know and everything that I understand enough to make me feel content, safe, and happy? I needed to know. And it was such a sobering and humbling experience to go into. Because you see, what I have come to understand through my work with Neuro Heart Alchemy and my personal experience creating this is that insight and healing are not the same thing. Understanding happens when we can finally make sense of our experience and we give it clarity and meaning in the present moment. That's understanding. Healing, on the other hand, begins when our nervous system no longer has to protect us from our past experiences. So your mind can completely understand something today, cognitively, while your nervous system is still responding and reacting to experiences that you had that it learned from maybe 20, 10, 5, 2 weeks ago. That's why so many intelligent, high-achieving, self-aware women and men become frustrated with themselves, their achievements, and their lives. Because they know, and maybe you know, exactly why you are reacting the way that you do. Yet in the moment, in that red-hot moment, the body responds and reacts before you've even had time to think. There's a reaction. This doesn't happen because you or anybody else is a failure or you are failing. No, not at all. And I know it is frustrating because we think we should feel different and act different just because we suddenly and cognitively in our own brains believe that we know better because we've got this information that makes us think we know better. However, the cold, hard, unpalatable truth is that the nervous system doesn't simply change just because we've gained some new information or a new insight or some wisdom and clarity. It doesn't change for those reasons. The nervous system is a system. It is a system that changes when you have experiences. It changes and it learns through repeated experiences of safety because the nervous system is designed to keep you safe, right? Your nervous system is a learning mechanism. It learns, it grows, it adapts. So one of the biggest misconceptions about healing is that insight, just knowing something, automatically creates change. It doesn't. Well, not in my experience. In my experience, it really doesn't create change in the body just because you know something. Insight does have a place in our lives. Of course it does. It's an amazing thing, but it it creates understanding first and foremost. And understanding gives us the opportunity to create, if we choose, compassion. Compassion creates safety. You cannot feel safe in your own skin unless you are compassionate to the versions of you that created the version of you that you're feeling frustrated with. Because everything is about safety. And safety in yourself, and safety looks like trust and compassion, is what finally allows change to happen. There is no change without safety. And I think this is why so many people quietly believe that they are not doing the job at healing, that they're not healing, that they're failing at healing, which is insane, because it's such a cruel, harsh judgment when people tell themselves, I should know better by now, and we beat ourselves up for knowing better but not doing better. But here's the thing. Knowledge was never the missing piece. Knowledge was not the missing piece. No way. Your nervous system isn't waiting for you to give it another explanation of why you didn't do something or why this happened. It's not waiting for another intelligent reason. In order for your nervous system to feel safe or for it to change, it was waiting for a different experience. Something different has to happen. And that realization, just that single realization alone, changed everything for me. I stopped asking myself, how do I understand myself better? I stopped trying to understand myself. And instead, I started asking a different question, which was really powerful. What does my nervous system need in this moment in order to feel safe enough to change? What does my nervous system need for me to change? And that single question transformed the way that I approached healing. It transformed the way that I relate to others. It transformed my business, and it transformed my life. Because healing stopped becoming something that I tried to force. I suddenly realized there was no need to try and force anything across any chapter of my life. I realized that healing became something that I learned to allow. I allowed myself to feel the feelings and to sit in the discomfort without judging it, without hating on myself. And perhaps there isn't something wrong with your ability to heal. Perhaps the problem is that nobody ever showed you that understanding your feelings was only the beginning. Just understanding yourself, understanding your story was only the beginning of the journey. Because once we recognize what our nervous system learns, and it's always a younger version of you that's learned it, we no longer have to fight ourselves, because suddenly we understand that something from the past is playing out in this present moment, and it's playing out through the body. And the person most of us usually feel the most angry, the most upset, the most hurt or disappointment with is, surprise, surprise, ourselves. The person we are most violent towards, emotionally, psychologically, physically, mentally, is often ourselves. And let me tell you, when we engage in emotional warfare with ourselves, it's a battle you can't win. You just can't beat yourself. And so we punish and push harder. And the only way out of patterns of behavior that shame and harm us is by putting down our internalized weapons of misperception. The way you are viewing yourself is incorrect. You put the weapons down. Stop attacking yourself so that you can finally begin working with yourself instead of against yourself. Because when you start to see you from your perspective, things change. And maybe that's what healing has always been about all along. I don't think healing is about becoming someone else. Although ironically, paradoxically, you do, in a sense, become someone else, because you become the next, I guess, evolutionary version of yourself. You become the upgrade of yourself. And that's usually a more beautiful, authentic, loving, kind, peaceful version of you that just feels delicious and good. And I believe from my own experience and from working with clients, this version of you that emerges is the one that was always there. It was the one that was there before the survival response that you believed is you. So the part of you that's created this persona that's actually born from trauma, the person that was there before that. Does that make sense? So alchemy is beyond simply healing. It is finally understanding and welcoming with an open heart who you have been all along. Neuroheart alchemy is about understanding why your nervous system adapted the way it did in order to protect you from something it couldn't process or carry before today. So true emotional alchemy is about creating enough psychological safety for your nervous system adaptations to become choices instead of necessities. Your personal development does not need to be held ransom to the nervous system adaptations that you created in the past. Adaptations that worked back then. So, if today's conversation has left you thinking, that sounds like me, I have created a free Neuroheart Alchemy assessment to help you begin recognizing the adaptive patterns your nervous system may still be carrying. We've all got them. And if you would like to receive this gift, it is a gift to you, then the link is in the description below. And if this conversation has helped you understand yourself just a little bit differently, I'd love you to leave me a comment to let me know. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and have a look at some of the other videos that are in the Trust Archive, because this channel is becoming the Trust Archive, a growing library of conversations about the psychology of everyday human experiences, lived through the lens of the nervous system, because I think that is the most transformative part of us. So each video explores another question many of us have carried around for years, and I love having these conversations, and together they build a compassionate understanding of why we become who we become. And I think that's really important to know, because understanding really does change everything. It does. So once again, thank you for listening. And more importantly, thank you for allowing me to accompany you on your journey.